Welcome to Dr. Jester Rants, and I'm gonna rant about this. Well, probably not ranting, more like talking, but still, it's a bit of a rant because it's important. Anyway, Florida House votes to ban biological males from women and girls school sports. The bill passed 77-40 without but one Democrat voting against the measure and all Republicans voting in favor. Thank fucking goodness, because this measure was passed. But it shows that Democrats are definitely lacking on science. They do not have a scientific background. They are all about scientism. The perceived notion that they actually believe in science and that they worship science, but only science that supports their actual belief, which is intersectionalism. Coffee. Cowboy style. Yes, I saw a recipe of cowboy coffee on YouTube. I forgot the name of the guy, but if you look for on YouTube cowboy coffee, the guy, it's a cowboy, a slightly older guy. He makes coffee like no other. It's amazing. Anyway, let me put it this way. Science dictates that men and women are inherently different physically, and in certain ways and shapes and forms the way we think as well. For instance, males have a better spatial orientation than women. I have noticed this multiple times. When talking to multiple women in my life, they sometimes show difficulty comprehending space, making maneuvers in vehicles, spatial orientation, things like that. They have a slight more difficulty in that. Meanwhile, for me, it's easy as fuck. But they do have a better social interaction. They interact better. They are social butterflies. Meanwhile, me, not so much. But remember, this is not a rule. This is a rule of thumb. But there's always exception to that rule. There are obviously women with better spatial orientation than some men, and some men are better or more social butterflies than some women. This is not something 100%. It's more common to find men with better spatial orientation than women than not, but it's a mixture. Obviously, this is a clarification because NPCs have a tendency not to understand the words mostly, tendency, and things like that. When they see something that goes against their beliefs, they ignore the definition of words and start attacking you with straw man arguments. They are morons, but what can you do? NPCs, this time, no exception, are all fucking imbeciles. It probably depends on the programming, but still. Anyway, men are inherently stronger. We have a better capacity to undertake physical exertion, better physical... let me put it this way. We evolved to hunt, and men are the ones who do the hunting. And we have been doing that for thousands of years. Only recently things started to change. For instance, the chances of me sitting on a chair in front of a screen or somewhere, it's only started happening in the last 100 or so years ago. For instance, in the past, men were more likely to be donning a sword or attacking some war, or in the pasture, carrying stuff or hunting. Only in the last 100, 200 years that men started to sit in front of a table, reading, writing something, studying, or in the last 10, 20 years in front of a screen like this, in a more common way, albeit that started to happen like in the last 40 years, but still, we have evolved to do that. So, inherently, women were mostly dedicated to bringing up children, the offspring, separating things like sorting out fruits and vegetables and things like that, Or when we were nomads, they were more dedicated, for instance, on picking up the berries and fruits and sorting out based on the colors of what was ripe, what wasn't, what was good to eat, what wasn't. So that's why you can find women with a better tendency to see sometimes slightly more colors than men. Yes, tendency of finding colorblind men is higher than women. That's one of the reasons we evolved to do that. That's why women are more social. And men have better, have longer bones, we have better lung capacity, we can consume more calories and things like that. For instance, like I say it in almost every video where I cover this, we have a hook behind our skull, meanwhile women do not have it. If you press it, if you have a boyfriend, you're a woman watching this, for some reason, I don't know, I feel sorry for you, but still, you get nothing better to do, right? You're watching this content, but still. Go find your boyfriend, husband, father, brother, and go on and poke behind their skull. And you're gonna see kind of a hook. Albeit that hook will only start developing when they go through the hormonal puberty. That means after their teens, but still, go on and go up, give it a poke. And you're gonna see kind of like a little bump behind their skull. That's a hook. Meanwhile, women do not have that. And we have kind of like a hook-ish also here on our jaws. This is allow us to have a better or more muscles on our skull to carry tools in our mouths. Or use the mouth as a third hand. Yeah, I know, not very hygienic, but this was when we were still evolving. And so we would carry them things in our mouth, meanwhile we would carry spears or something else in our hands while doing other things, and we would hunt. Another concept that we have is that we are endurance runners. For instance, we would cause animals to overheat because most animals, almost all of them, they need to open their mouths like that to ventilate, to cool down their entire system. Which is why they may be faster than us, but we tire them. We hunt them through exhaustion. Because if they don't stop to cool down, they will die of heat exhaustion. And this is where we, as humans, start to hunt. We scare them, make them tired. When they get tired, we kill them. And that's why men have better physical exertion. We have better strength. And that's why putting women competing against men is not suggestible. The same way it is not suggestible to put men, even though they went through a hormonal substitution, hormonal replacement, HRT, hormonal replacement therapy, to become another gender. It's just not going to change these things. Height, for instance, muscle, and things like that will not change. You can cry, you can throw a temper tantrum, can throw a hissy fit. There are multiple situations where a transgender male managed to beat down a female in sports easily. For instance, even a 15-year-old high school team, soccer team, managed to beat the American national soccer team. You know, that shows the difference in skills and physical competency based on gender. That's why you don't put males competing against women. It's just not right, just not correct. You're going to take the scholarship of a teenage girl who is competing, doing everything she can. She can train for all the time, 12 hours she has left in her day. She would still not manage to beat a slacker of a male because of our different biological differences. Let's read the news. The bill passed 77-40 without but one Democrat voting against the measure and all Republicans voting in favor. The vote comes as part of a nationwide campaign by conservatives to prevent biological male athletes from self-identifying as female and using that designation to compete in women's sports. Usually the males who end up doing that are people who kind of failed in their own male division, and they feel bad about themselves, so they go and take the lowest hanging fruit. Well, and the lowest hanging fruit is the female sports. Similar bills have been passed in Idaho and South Dakota. Good states, with the former state's bill being struck down by a judge, while latter states' Republican governments vetoed the bill, then issued an executive order of her own to solidify the ban in high school sports. Supporters of such restrictions have argued that there are natural biological differences between male and females. Exactly. If there was no biological differences between males and females, then why are you going through the HRT? You wouldn't need that, would you? Biological males have greater muscle mass and bone density, as well as more aggressive tendencies due to testosterone, which gives biological males an unfair advantage over biological females in athletic competition. Yes, despite you completely cutting out testosterone in your body, even though you cannot do it, even if you're a woman, you have to lower it very, very little. It's still going to provide you with an advantage because, like I said, you went through the change in your body. It's too late. Opponents of the bills have argued that the natural biological differences between men and women diminish after biological males begin taking estrogen. That's not quite the case, and that such bills are more based on bigotry towards transgender people than on science. Well, if this was true, we wouldn't have multiple tales, multiple news sources, multiple articles of showing biological males competing on female sports, boning women in. Such bills are more based on bigotry than that. However, there are substantial restrictions against doping in sports, and an athlete taking doses of hormones could be considered as drug taking. While more radical transgender rights advocates have argued that simply identifying as a woman should allow an individual access to women's sports. Jesus Christ. This is even more retarded. Others have suggested a more vigorous approach to ensure that transgender individuals consistently identify as a woman and are actively taking growth-sex hormones to reduce natural biological differences. Well, I'm sorry, but unless you... No, there's no way. Republicans have not seemed overly concerned with the organization's threats. However, with Senator Rick Scott tweeting the NCAA that if they keep threatening the public with your woke elitist psychobabble, then an NCAA will not last much longer. Florida cannot be replaced, but you can be replaced. I agree. Rick Scott, I agree. Democrats have pointed out that transgender women have been playing on women's sports teams in Florida since 2013 without issues, with Republicans responding that the legislation is proactive. Yeah. NCAA, which conditioning allows transgender women to compete in women's leagues, has threatened to pull some of the championship events out of Florida if the bill passes. Well, NCAA, nobody cares about you. Look, like I explained, there's a very large difference, and this is why, with all of those differences and pros and cons based on each gender, which is why men and women go so well together. Yes, that's why when we marry, we complement. When the woman is lacking, the man is better, then the man helps the woman. And when the man is lacking and the woman is better, the woman helps the man. It's how it is. You complement each other. That's why humanity, mankind, has evolved to need both genders for reproduction. Which is why it's 99.9% in the world, the entire world, you find in a marriage a man and a woman. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's that you shouldn't marry between a man and a woman and a woman. I'm just saying that 99% of the population is like that, which is how mankind has evolved. It's how the species reproduces and passes on its genes. You can throw a hissy fit. It's not going to change facts. It's not going to change biological differences. It's not going to change biology. It's not going to change science. The end. Anyway, if you like this type of content, stay right here on youtube.com/Dr. Jester. Fuck you, YouTube. Or if you like more giggity, spicy content, head to bitchute.com/Dr. Jester, or minds.com/Dr. Jester for giggity stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a very good night.